first off, I want to turn to I guess, an anchor on MSNBC. And, you know, this is a typical pattern among the left. If a particular individual or a party or a group is opposing something that you believe in, the opposition is most likely based on racism, right? The people who disagree with you, who don't want to do what you want to do, the reason is that they're racist. See, because it can't be that they have a legitimate reason to oppose what you want to do, because what you want to do is obviously so correct that the only way that you can oppose it is if you have some nefarious reason for doing so. And since racism is basically the worst thing that you can call somebody in American politics, right? It is the worst thing you can be as a racist. Then that is the word that's most often bandied about when you want to discredit somebody or impugn their motivation. You simply play the race card. And this is exactly what's going on here with Chris Hayes on MSNBC. Listen to how he blames the failure of Republican governors to want to expand Medicaid on racism, forgetting the fact that theoretically Republicans would oppose big government and they would be in favor of free markets. And clearly, Medicaid is a big government program that has failed miserably since it was first introduced in the in the Great Society days. And so why would any Republican governor, if they believe in the principles that they ran on, why would they want to expand Medicaid? What's amazing to me is that more Republican governors don't want to eliminate Medicaid. It has nothing to do with their race, but of course, as far as Chris Hayes is concerned, that's the only thing that it has to do with. Have a listen to this. The first cut is number 16.
To me, the thing, and I actually have to, let me be honest here.
Okay.
The racial prism I use to analyze American politics has grown sharper and I think in some ways more pessimistic in the Obama era. I will cop to that unquestionably. Like I do see things more thoroughly through the prism of race. I think that's been foisted upon me by the facts in some way. And one of the most clarifying fights for me has been this Medicaid expansion.
See, that's his first problem. Why is he viewing things through a racial prism anyway? He said it's been foisted upon him. No, it hasn't. He has brought it upon himself. But I like the fact that he has to say that racism is even worse now that we have a black president. Oh, really? First of all, what about the fact that we elected a black president? That's no indication. No, we're just trying to cover up our racism. See, that was the secret. You see, what happened was a bunch of racists voted for the president, and they said, you know what? This is the best way that we can cover up our racism. Let's elect a black president. That'll fool everybody. See, that'll make people think that we're not racist, even though we are. See, it's a disguise. We're going to throw them off, off the scent, right? We're going to throw this curveball at them, because we're going to say, well, how can we be racist? Look, we voted for a black man. See, that's it. That's the cover that they need to hide all the racism that is running rampant in America is, we have this trick. We just elected this black guy, knowing that we could always say, look, we're not racist. Look, we have a black president, even as we're more and more racist, right? So somehow racism has gotten worse. I wonder if the president wants to accept that as part of his legacy, that, yes, under my presidency, racism is now worse than it was before I was elected. I don't think the president would want to acknowledge that there's more racism than there was before he took office, because then maybe he's the reason, right? Maybe he's helped bring about more racism than there was before. But that's kind of the setup. But this is the second cut where he supposedly presents his evidence for why he's come to the conclusion that it's racism that is preventing the expansion of government and not a genuine opposition to big government. Here, cut number 17.
Because it really does feel like, if you look at the map, the map of the states that aren't expanding Medicaid, like, you see the heartland of the country that is very red, and then you see that region that's got a similar part to it that is basically the South, that is the Deep South. And that's a region of the country in which the Medicaid recipients are predominantly people of color. And that fight, to me, that feels like one of those fights where I'm reading race in, no one is calling it racial, but when I look at the statistics and when I look at the fact that Kentucky and West Virginia have expanded and basically have no black people, I cannot help but see race in that fight.
All right, so let me get this straight. Because there are a lot of black people on Medicare, that is why Republicans oppose the programs. It's because the recipients of the welfare programs are black. If they were white, they would be in favor of them, which is sheer nonsense. I don't think the majority of the people living collecting Medicaid in those states in the South are black. They're white. The majorities are white. Now, a disproportionate percentage may be black, disproportionate to their percentage of the population, but the majority of the recipients of Medicaid money are not black in those states that he is referring to. But even if they were, the Republicans aren't opposed to black people getting Medicaid. If they're true Republicans and believe in small government, they're opposed to anybody. They're opposed in principle to the program itself, and they understand that it doesn't work. That it is increasing poverty and helping to run up medical costs. But here's the worst part of his example. He says that Kentucky and West Virginia have no black people, and they're expanding Medicare. Now, first of all, I don't believe that West Virginia and Kentucky don't have blacks. Now, maybe they have a smaller black population. I don't have the statistics. Maybe somebody can get that. But the fact that he says there's no black people there, none, I highly doubt that. I'm sure that there are plenty of blacks in those states that are on these programs. Maybe it's a smaller percentage than in some of the other southern states. But to say that the reason that these states are more in favor of expanding Medicaid is because there are fewer blacks? What about the fact that both Kentucky and West Virginia have Democratic governors? Maybe it's their party. Maybe it's their ideology that is the reason that they're expanding these programs. Maybe the Republican governors don't want to expand these programs because they're Republicans. Maybe the Democratic governors want to expand them because they're Democrats. What does race have to do with it? Absolutely nothing. But Chris Hayes, by his own admission, looks at everything through a racial prism. So he's trying to interpose race into everything he looks at, even when it's not an issue. He makes it an issue. This is something that he is doing. It is not being forced upon him by the outside. It's not because of the facts. It's because of his own biases. It's because of his own racism that race is an issue, not because of anybody else's. 855-4-CHEF is our phone number. We will be back.